Welcome back to the Sports Complex on a Monday or Wednesday afternoon. I know what day of the week it is. Wednesday afternoon. It is signing day. We will get into the news from National Signing Day. Many people signed their letters today. Some did not. We'll tell you who Texas could still be eyeing for a February signing and who they got on board today. We'll talk a little bit about Chip Kelly's comments over the weekends on how to fix college football, or at least move college football into the future. Talk some more Texas versus Washington. And, since we're talking about signees, we might talk about some freshmen in the Texas versus Washington game. Ja Morant returns for the Memphis Grizzlies and has a big night and a big shot to win the game. We'll get a little into the NBA talk, some NFL talk as well as we get into it here on the show on a Wednesday afternoon. And, of course, your text messages, 512-447-3776. 512-447-3776 is the text line number. You guys text in the show. You guys drive the show. We just try to keep it on the rails. Questions, comments, concerns, whatever you got to say that to us. We try and keep you involved. You guys are the reason we get to keep doing this show. By us, I mean myself, Patrick Davis, and across from me, Mr. Jacob Standard. Good Tuesday afternoon?
Yeah, no, it's a great Wednesday afternoon.
No, I mean yesterday.
Oh,
a good
yesterday,
one.
yes.
Between when we talked and then.
Yes. No, I had a great Tuesday afternoon. I went home. I watched Ja Morant's return, which was surprisingly more entertaining than I expected.
Yeah.
The Grizzlies are all the way back. We'll get into that later.
All the way back.
All the way back. I mean, we're talking like probably top seed in the West back. But and then I watched Golden State and Boston go into overtime. It was a great Tuesday.
It was a good Tuesday. We had UTSA play a bowl game.
Oh, we did?
We did. We have another bowl game coming up tomorrow. No bowl games tonight, I don't believe. We're bowl game free tonight.
I think so.
I mean, we can make up a name for one.
All right, let's try it.
We could make up one. If we could just find
the whole body health.
the Marketron user platform
.com,
and then you just got to name a city. Fresno Bowl, yeah. There is a Fresno Bowl, I believe.
Oh, we can't use that one.
Yeah, I think there is a Fresno
Okay.
Bowl. But yeah, there is. I know there's a roofclaim.com Bowl coming up, which I didn't know roofclaim.com was a thing, so I guess the advertising's working.
Oh, if you have enough money, you can have a bowl game.
Yeah, I don't know what a toastery is.
Now what?
A toastery, but that was the bowl game on Monday night. Was the toastery.
A toastery?
Yeah, and then there was like a guy in a piece of toast. The mascot.
What in the world is a toast? We might have to enlist the text line on this.
Yeah, if anybody knows
what is a toastery?
I don't know if that's a brand of toast. I feel like you just toast. I toast my own bread. I don't know. I mean, don't be too old school for you guys.
Is toastery? Is this like a building where you can go to have your bread toasted?
Is this a new fancy restaurant? Oh, have you been to the 5-star toastery?
Man.
Oh, they have so many different types of butter.
Dude, they never leave it in the toaster for too long. Comes out perfect every time.
Is that a toaster strudel type thing? Is it something like that? I don't know.
No, that would be a pastry, right?
I think it's a pastry, but they call it a toastery.
Toastery.
I don't know. Maybe somebody else. If you know on the text line, let us know. I don't know what that is. But it is National Signing Day. I think that's what people care about a little bit more.
No. Let's do 30 more minutes on toasteries.
I would say saying we can do 30 more minutes on bowl games that don't matter. Well, we'll go into National Signing Day. A lot of guys. We'll get into the guys that are going to Texas that we know, and a lot of these we already knew going into today. So not a lot of new news for that. And I'll tell you what, I've written down 4 stars and above. There's a lot of 3 stars that are coming too.
There's been a lot,
but there's a ton of them. So we're not going to get into all of them. They've agreed to come, and they're all coming. A couple names to mention though. Aaron Hampton.
Okay.
Is a 4-star athlete. He had committed to Texas. He decided to flip today to Alabama. So Texas does lose a 4-star athlete in Aaron Hampton. He flips to Alabama. Nick Saban was going hard after him today, and he flips to Alabama. The big story all morning was that Missouri had been pressuring hard, and I believe another team had been pressuring hard. Nebraska had been pressuring hard for Ryan Wingo, the 5-star wide receiver.
Yep.
They've been pressuring hard for him, and people in Texas were starting to get a little worried that maybe he wasn't going to come to Texas. He does sign today. He is coming to Texas. He did not falter. He did not flip again. So Ryan Wingo is coming to Texas.
That's big time. That's huge.
So we'll get to the guys that Texas did sign in just a second. But a couple other names for you to mention. Actually, you know what? Let's go through the ones we got real quick, and then I'll mention these other names because they did not sign today.
Okay.
But a couple 5-stars. Brandon Baker, the 5-star offensive tackle, signs with Texas.
Sure did.
The 5-star plus edge, Colin Simmons, signs with Texas. There was some talk that people were trying to go after him, and a lot of people didn't believe that when he committed to Texas, that would be the end, that NIL and some other people would come after him hard because he is such an elite player. But he signs with Texas as well. 4-star defensive tackle DeAndre Robinson signs with them. 4-star tight end Jordan Washington. The Xavier Filsaime, the flip you got from Florida, he signs today. The 4-star running back Jared Gibson that Florida was going hard after came in today. Kobe Black, the 4-star cornerback. 4-star athlete Wardell Mack. 4-star quarterback Trey Owens. And 4-star edge Zena Omizulo. All signed with Texas today. And under a list of 3 stars as well come in. A good day for Texas. Last I saw, they were 3 or 4 on the recruiting, which is a great number to be at. When you were 5-7 a few years ago, you are now in the college football playoff. You are jumping into those top 5 and getting back in those classes where you want to be to continue to go. You also got Makubo and Matthew Golden both signed today as well as transfers. They're officially on board and coming in. So some more good news. Texas doing pretty well today. Sark doing happy. He just gave his press conference. We don't have audio from it yet because it happened. It was finishing up as we were coming on the air, so we haven't been able to pull audio from it yet. Yep. We should have some of that tomorrow. We'll see if we get anything good from that. We'll play that tomorrow on the show. A couple other names to keep up and keep up with. Some people that were supposed to sign today, people really wanted them to. A couple of A&M commits that did not sign today. They pushed their signing back to the February deadline, which you can sign in February. Most people do it earlier. But some people, because you want to get it out of the way, get it, enroll early.
It's a sign of good faith, too.
And a lot of guys enroll early, graduate early, enroll early. A lot of guys want to get it done. And
get into the program.
And the players also, because you can also start getting NIL sooner. Because once you're on campus, you can start negotiating those.
Ooh.
So some people want to get it done so they can get on it a little bit earlier, or, enroll and, but these guys did not because they're not sure where they're going yet. 2 of them from A&M. The defensive lineman, a 5-star defensive lineman, Dominic McKinley, says he's going to push it off till February.
Saw that.
Texas still talking to him.
Saw that.
And then A&M, a 4-star Dalen Evans, says he's going to put off his signing as well. He decided he's not going to go. And then a Florida commit that someone that Texas may be looking at as well, another 5-star defensive lineman, LJ McCray, has pushed off his signing. That he's not, but he's another one of those that Florida not looking great. A lot of people not signing. Maybe didn't see the people he thought were going to come with him. Some of the guys he may have thought were going to be going to Florida and he'd be part of that class.
Or maybe they have an A&M situation going on where there's no NIL getting paid out like they thought.
I don't think it's that so much as Billy Napier is just not doing a good job in Florida. And, if you think, well, I'm going to Florida to be part of this really big, historic program in the SEC.
And you see what they did last year.
And you see how many people are transferring out and you see everything else, you may not have the faith in Billy Napier that you had earlier. So maybe opening up your recruitment a little bit more. So those are some big names still available that did not sign today. That Texas is going to keep their eye on, and all of us will take your eye on that. Texas is 3 or 4, depending on who you're looking at in the recruiting rankings.
I've got them after 5 on ESPN.
Okay, you have about 5 on ESPN. So in that top 5, though, on everyone, and there's still some names out there. If you pull another 5-star or another 4-star, you could move up in those rankings even more. So big national signing day for Texas. The Ryan Ringo was the only one that really seemed to be kind of questionable.
There was a lot of noise building up around that one this morning.
I think we saw, the other schools were really, really making a push for him to sign. He did not push back his signing day. He could have done. He did sign the day. He signed his national letter of intent. So good to see Ryan Wingo coming, being another 5-star to add to this rotation of guys. It's going to be a younger wide receiver core, even though adding Matthew Golden, they may add another wide receiver in the transfer portal. We don't know.
I think it'd be smart. I think you want 2 veteran presence.
You like to, but they also don't know if Xavier Worthy is going to come back or Adonai Mitchell could come back. I don't think either one are going to.
Keep your fingers crossed.
But they could. We don't know. So there may be some way to, we don't want to bring in 2 more veterans and then also have one of those guys stay.
I just think after all the noise X-Man took last year with the broken hand and
I don't think either one of them staying.
Okay.
I'm just saying that there is still a possibility of those that Sark has had conversations we don't know about with them.
Fair.
That he may be saying, let's wait to really bring in someone else, or maybe they're fully working on bringing somebody else in right now.
Right.
I'm sure they have people on the line. I'm sure they're talking to people.
Or maybe they're close enough with Quinn where they're like, you're coming back, I'm coming back. Let's run.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it depends on what happens in the next, 3 weeks.
Yeah, for sure.
If you get really close and don't hit it, you may try and run it back. You may say we were so close, let's go do it. Or you may win it and say, let's run it back. Look, we're making NIL. I don't like my draft stock's not where I want it to be. I don't think that's happening.
I doubt it. I seriously doubt it.
I doubt it.
Yeah.
But who knows? Who knows what'll happen with those? They're all young men. They have to make their choices. I did want to bring this up, though, because this is something else that goes into college football now. And we'll retouch on National Signing Day if we see anything else come through, or if you guys on the text line have something we missed about Texas recruiting, you can send that in on the text line, and we'll check that. We'll go back into that in the 5 o'clock hour before we get into the NFL, or we'll retouch on National Signing Day. But I did want to bring up something that Chip Kelly talked about this weekend, when he was asked about how do you fix the transfer portal and how do you fix the problem? Because a lot of these coaches, too, they understand the transfer portal. The issue is, look, we don't mind that there's a transfer portal. What we mind is losing guys to schools that now this guy's going to a worse school with, that he's not even, he didn't want to go where he's going.
And he's going there because he was promised more money.
Well, not even that he was promised more money. That he was promised basically to get a starting job at Ohio State, to name a school. Not necessarily, I don't want to name any, but let's just say.
Just throw an example
Just throw an example out there. It says, hey, Ohio State asked 5 receivers to get in the portal. They get a different wide receiver. You no longer are looking at you. And now you transferred out of UCLA to go to Ohio State. And now you have to look for other answers. And maybe you end up at a school you didn't want to end up at.
Yeah.
Because now UCLA says, cool. Chip Kelly says, cool. Well, you walked away.
Right.
You said you had greener pastures.
Yeah, because all you ever hear about is the transfers that work out.
Yeah.
Right? Like the big.
And there's a lot
one.
of people
Yeah.
that don't. And so, I think they want to fix that part as much of anything. Is like, well, we don't want to lose attrition just because somebody's tampering. If someone has a better offer and they want to go somewhere else, that's fine. That's how the game works now. But let's try and, fix the rules and a little bit more transparency in all of it. Chip Kelly, he had some points, and a lot of people are agreeing with it. There are some issues with it, which we'll get into, but here's what Chip Kelly had to say about his ideas to start to evolve college football going into the future.
I think they're all a problem, and I think we need to have a conference commissioner. I think football should be separate from the other sports. Just the fact that our school is leaving to go to the Big Ten in football, our softball team should be playing Arizona in softball. Our basketball team should be playing Arizona in basketball. But because football left, and they're saying, well, how do you do that? Well, Notre Dame's independent in football, and they're in a conference and everything else. I think we should all be independent in football. And you can have a 64-team conference that's in the Power 5, and you can have a 64-team conference in the Group of 5. And we separate it, and we play each other. You can have the West Coast teams, and then every year we play 7 games against the West Coast teams, and then we play the East. So we play Syracuse, Boston College, Pitt, West Virginia, Virginia. Then the next year you play against the South while you still play your 7 teams. You can play a 7-game schedule. You can play 4 against another conference, another division opponent, and you can always play against one Mountain West team every year so that we can still keep those rivalries going. Not that I've really thought about this. Not that I've a lot of spent of time on this. But I think if you went together collectively as a group and said there's 132 teams and we all share in the same we all share the same TV contract, so that the Mountain West doesn't have one and the Sun Belt doesn't have another and SEC has one and they have another, that we all go together. That's a lot of games, and there's a lot of people in the TV world that would go through it. You can sponsor each one. Instead of calling it Group of 5 and Power 5, you can call it Amazon, Nike, bid that out to things. You can do a lot of different things. But I think if we still do the same thing and take all that money, and I would do this, and I think this needs to be done, that money now needs to be shared with the student athletes, and there needs to be revenue sharing, and the players should get paid, and you can get rid of NLI, and the schools should be paying the players because the players are what the product is. And the fact that they don't get paid is really the biggest travesty. Not that I've thought about it.
So there's a lot to unpack in that.
Yeah, he said NLI. I don't trust a single word he said.
It's the same. They're 3 words. You can put them in a new order.
I know.
But there's a lot to unpack, because first part is probably the most easier to do and more likely and more needs to happen kind of thing, which is you need to separate football from the rest of college programs.
Yeah. Just
because at the end of the day, what's happening in the Pac-12 to everyone going to the Big Ten is really going to mess up a lot of these schools for volleyball and baseball and softball and even basketball, because the travel is just going to get so much crazier to have to go across the country so many more times. You're not playing as much of your rivals or your old rivals and everything else. And it's
all in the name of better football games.
And it is. And look, football makes the most money. They pay for your other sports a lot of times. So to allow your football team to go make your money, have the big games, do everything else, and then keep all those rivalries in other sports. Like, I mean, even if you look at, Texas and Oklahoma in basketball and in baseball or whatever else, like Bedlam should still exist. And even if it doesn't in football, it can exist in every other sport.
Right.
And those type of things. So bring all those schools together and say, okay, everybody, we're going to get rid of this whole outbidding and then these conference commissioners trying to, where there's a bidding of we're not in it for the best interest of the kids. We're in the best interest for our conference. So we don't care if your conference, all those kids never play in the NFL. We don't care. Like, it's a weird thing because you don't ever want that to be in college sports, is a complete distrust of any other conference, which is what we're at now.
Yeah. Well, we put ourselves there. I mean, when this whole transfer portal thing opened up and the realignment, I mean, we were always going to head in this direction.
Yeah.
It was always going to be this.
So when we get into it of, if you can get it to basically everyone is independent and we get over that football, and so the TV contracts for those conferences all died down and become different TV contracts for basketball and different TV contracts for baseball and softball. That can work out, and TV will still need those sports to fill time. There is still all these 24-hour sports channels that need sports
outside of football season.
Of football season, but then you can also, for a team like a Kansas or a Duke that I think has a decent football program, those programs will now be even more sought after. Because an ACC or Big 12, that'll mean more money for them in basketball because they do focus on more sports. Whereas a conference that may not focus on basketball as much in some other schools, those will go down. So that part, I think, needs to happen sooner rather than later, because then you can have a conference commissioner and you can have somebody on top of everybody to say, okay, this is what we're not trying to eat each other anymore.
Let's regulate things a little bit.
We can regulate the transfer portal a little bit better where they can still get in, but we don't have to have everyone jump in. We can move the timing of it so people can play in bowl games and play in and try and make the TV product better, because this is now so much about that TV revenue. We can kind of fix all those things. So that part of it makes a ton of sense. On the flip of that, the paying the players should happen, should 100% happen.
The revenue share?
The revenue share should happen at some point. It just needs to be figured out how it works, because the NCAA is built on a system that in 2023 shouldn't really be legal anymore, because the people who invented the system have even come out and said that it was not done in good faith.
Right.
So there's parts of it there where if you say, okay, well, if we look at the system, well, then, okay, we're going to start revenue sharing. Now, if you start revenue sharing, we separate from other sports. So we're not even talking about Title IX. We're going to get over that, because those sports are football is still raising enough money to pay for every other sports. You still have NIL in every other sport.
Yeah, we're acknowing that football is just different. It just is.
It just makes more money.
Right.
So we take it there. The issues you start to come into is, of course, employees and insurance.
Ooh.
And that becomes a massive problem.
Yeah, because that's expensive.
And then you talk about injuries and, long term. One of the reasons why whenever we hear about CTE and it's never mentioned that Pop Warner, that I had multiple concussions in Pop Warner, that the college football players, someone played football for 18 years or whatever, 15 years before they made it to the NFL, and they made it to the NFL and played for 3 seasons, and the NFL owes them for the CTE.
Right.
You say, well, didn't they play 15 years getting concussions before
there was only
they
3
came
years
to the NFL?
Yeah.
And no, but it's just because they have the money. They're the ones who are going to pay out. You can't really sue the other people. So you're going to have those issues now, because once you get into that world, now everyone who played in college is going to come back and say, well, my life didn't work out the way I wanted to, and I do have CTE.
Yeah,
but I'm going to blame it on that, and so I'm going to come after you. And so you have to worry about those issues. And not to say the least, once you get into now where money is agreed upon, you get into contracts. And now teams say, so you can't transfer out when you sign. And they sign you for an amount of money.
They're going to introduce a portal clause. And
they have portal clauses, and you have all that. But then this adds in how many years of eligibility, because once you all have all this, you're now a pro league.
Yes.
Now, for a guy like a Frank Harris, who's not an NFL talent, but he could play, and he could probably play, and or just a lot of these quarterbacks who are good enough to be college quarterbacks. Stetson Bennett could have played at Georgia for 10 years.
Yeah.
But at what point do we have a linebacker who is a 30-year-old man playing against 18-year-olds who just got out of high school? And the reason there's college football is to separate the men from the boys to say they will injure you.
Yeah.
Because it's just they're completely full grown. They've been in a weight gym and they've been in a weight room and they've been working out like crazy. Imagine Ray Lewis versus Arch Manning.
In the A gap.
Arch Manning coming around doesn't see that Ray Lewis breaks off a block.
Oh.
And that's the problem. So there is a backside of this where there's all the positives that you can find and some positive things and maybe where it can go. But I think there is something where you have to look at the grand scheme of things and say, okay, we have to keep some level of this being college, some level of eligibility. And once we get too far into the greed of it, where we are just going straight into the money, how do we find the moral compass and edge to get out of it? So that's what worries me is I think college football is headed more in this direction, but I'm not sure that the people that are running it are going to do the right thing in it, and it may end up hurting them down the line when you start to get into the point where they now want to compete with the NFL, and the NFL does not want to compete with them, and it becomes a bigger and bigger struggle, and people coming out and how long, and then the rules do the NFL now take away that you can't go straight to the NFL rule and you can get your contracts, and then if they do that, does college football respond? It's an interesting slippery slope discussion that you can go on forever, and I'd love to hear if you think it's crazy all the time and no one should ever be paid, or you think there needs to find a solution. If you have a better solution than Chip Kelly, because I think Chip Kelly has a lot of good points, but I also see the flip of it where you can't just revenue share without having to have all of the other factors that come in with that.
Right. So when is the college football collective bargaining going to happen?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because then it's unionized.
Because that's the next logical step, and that happens quick.
And they're already trying to do those things.
Right.
They're already trying to do them. So it's coming at some point, probably within all of our lifetimes. We'll see at least, that everyone will kind of go and break away from their conferences.
And
I think this first step of the cross-country travel for other sports is going to start to lead into that, where even though travel's better and everything else, people are like, man, we're spending an insane amount of money.
Going from coast to coast.
And our teams are losing a lot more because we can't afford the travel that we want. So they're sitting coach going back and forth for games.
Ugh.
And we're missing schoolwork and we're missing everything else. It's an interesting thing to go through. So tell us on the text line if you have a better solution, or if you want to, if you figure out a new way, or you have ideas. I'd love to hear those as part of the conversation as well. I just think it's an interesting thing that you have a coach now coming out and saying, this is kind of what, and we all know this.
So do you see a path where they could do this and still have a rule in there that's, you still only have 4 years of eligibility, but we're going to have this revenue share. There's going to be the max contract you can get is 4 years.
I think all of that can be done. The question is, once you start going into this is a for-profit venture, this is no longer, we've dropped the guise of student athlete kind of thing.
I thought we did.
We didn't, because they're still holding on to that.
Okay.
And once we drop that, are you still making them go to class? Are you still?
Ooh.
Are you still at what point do the TV networks and the people with money that do not care one bit about these children and these young men? They don't care. When do they start coming and go, well, screw them. They work for us.
Yeah.
They don't go to class. They work for us. We're paying them. They work for us.
I didn't come here to play school.
And so that's the question. And then, what do you do for the offensive linemen? They're like, man, I want to go there, but I do want an education. Like, I'm not playing pro, and I only got a few years in me before my knees give out. So there's so many parts of it that are moving to find the right thing. And what's right thing for Quinn Ewers is not the right thing for Charles Wright on the other, down the line, who's a good quarterback, who played really well in high school, who's been part of Texas' team for years now. Is he, does he get punished now because, or do you pay him the same amount as Quinn? Or there's just a lot of questions going to that.
So say we do get to that scenario there, right? So is there room for a solution where you play your 4 years and, you're not going to the league? Does the school then offer you scholarship to then go enroll in their academic side of the
They could, and that's another, you could say, okay, well, you're not going to go to college until after.
Because then you're still taking care of the student as well. And it's like, hey, you did 4 years for us. You helped our program. Sorry you're not making it to the next level, but we'll still give you this higher education.
And they may be able to do that. And they may, it's just interesting to see. I think they'd want to start it of you're still a student athlete.
Oh, yeah, they're not going to make that leap in one.
But it is that once we start going there, where does it end? And we've seen with the transfer portal when they open it, and when you see these commissioners, the reason you want it to be 64 and all these people is because you have a better shot of it than with the NCAA right now, where they go, well, we don't want you to touch our stuff, so you get NIL, and we don't want any transfer, so we're just going to let all the transfer happen.
Yep.
And I think you need to have somebody who's looking out for the best interest of the game and looking out for the best interest of the student athletes, and then find the middle ground with the money.
Okay, so how do you prevent 1,300 transfers though? The first day of the portal opens.
That's the thing, is I think that is where you just get to more transparency of, the line of entering the transfer portal is a little different, where there is the tampering period they have in the NFL and stuff like that, or where you basically can go in and go, okay, well, these people are entering into this, they're not transferring, but they're listening to offers, or they're you're allowed to talk to these people or do whatever, and get to the point where people are going to make decisions, and so you don't necessarily have to get into the transfer portal if you don't know where you're going. When you think you do, but you've been lied to because you can't talk to the man. You talk to a high school coach who told you that so-and-so wants you.
That he saw on ESPN that they want you.
Yeah, oh, man, you should be going there. And then you get out, and they go, no, nobody wants you there.
No,
your team doesn't want you back, and you left Ole Miss, and now you're at Fresno State.
Ooh.
And it's, Fresno State's a fine school.
It ain't Ole Miss.
But you took a step down.
You ain't playing Bama every year.
So that's what you have to look at. I do want to say real quick about Texas and Washington. We're going to go a little bit longer on this. We may mention it again as we get into it. But it's an interesting thing about the matchup with Washington of something that's a slight edge, because I was thinking about it because it is National Signing Day. Think about the class that Texas brought in and the difference that Washington has not had a great recruiting class recently. They've had some good players, and they've developed a lot of guys. But when we look at it, I couldn't really find a huge impact freshman for Washington.
Yeah, I wasn't able to find one either.
So when you look at just another factor in this game of unpredictability of players that we don't know their full potential yet, that have another month to learn to get into this game, that could make a huge impact in the game, that Texas has, I might count 6 guys who could make an impact in this game between Anthony Hill, Manny Muhammad, Jonte Cook, Derek Williams, CJ Baxter, and Connor Robertson, is who I have is 6 freshmen who will probably see playing time in this game, who can make an impact and make a difference. And could one of those guys step up to be at another level with another month of prep and another month of practices to get ready for this game? Can we see a freshman take another step in this game where Washington doesn't have that? We know what Washington has.
You have to review the other side of that too, right? Which is, I know they've done good for you all year, but now we're in the biggest stage.
Yeah.
And these are freshmen. So
they are.
Does that moment get to them, right? Does it work against you? I don't think it will. I think we've seen enough of these freshmen, but it is something to consider when you think of factors of the game.
No, I agree. I think there is, you worry about CJ Baxter. Can you hold on to the ball and make the right play?
Or Anthony Hill, like the Cowboys linebackers, just getting washed inside every time and they're bouncing it out. Yeah.
Derek Williams not getting blown, missing a coverage trying to go for an interception.
The first half,
but still, the second half is going to matter too.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
So all of those things. Manny Muhammad, same thing. Are you going to go for an interception and allow a touchdown?
Right.
Where if you get the pick, we all love you and you're a hero, and if you miss it, you're the scapegoat. Those are things, but that's freshmen for you, and we don't know. So that's why we get to Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the day today.
Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the day on the Horn.
Big Fat Poll of the day today, 512-447-3776 is the text line. Which freshman will have the biggest impact on the game in the Sugar Bowl? Which freshman for Texas? Because I don't think Washington has a freshman that's going to make a big impact on the game. I think they have a very older team. They have a team with a lot of experience. They have a team that is going to be ready to go. They have those veterans. It's a different thing. Texas has some veterans too, but they had something that Washington does not have is freshmen that could be making a big step forward. That could be, as you bring up, could be a two-edged sword.
Yeah.
Could come either way.
Because they're still freshmen.
But which freshman will have the biggest impact in the Sugar Bowl for Texas? Hit us up on the text line. 512-447-3776 is the text line. We're going to take a quick break. We come back. We'll get into some NBA talk. Ja Morant returned last night and made sure everyone knew about it.
Woo.
We'll get into that. We'll get into some of your texts as well. On the Horn, 1019 AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Back on the Sports Complex here on a Wednesday afternoon, playing some unconventional, not the normal standard Christmas songs. This is a classic, though.
This one doesn't make your normal Christmas playlist?
I mean, it does for me. I don't know if it does it for other people.
I would think it does. I think this one sneaks in there.
That Curtis Blow Christmas rapping.
Yeah.
It's a solid song. It's a solid one. My favorite line in this song, because I feel like it was one of those ones where it was written down and he thought it rhymed in his head and then he said it and it didn't. And he just said, screw it, I'm still going. Is in this song, he says, and the grown-ups got some presents too, a new TV and a stereo. But that doesn't rhyme.
A new TV and a stereo. Maybe he was rhyming the line before that?
No, what he did, but this is how he says it. He says a new TV and a stereo.
Oh.
He rhymes too with stereo.
And a stereo.
Solid stuff. And believe me, other rappers like Snoop Dogg have stolen that later, which Snoop Dogg was just, I'll put an isle on the end of everything and then everything rhymes.
Right.
How do you rhyme when you don't want to rhyme? Just put a fake ending on every word and then they all rhyme.
Well, like Eminem too, he'll like cut words off in the middle to make it the end of a line and he'll rhyme things together that way.
But that's, the Curtis Blow Christmas rapping is great. Yeah. It sticks out so bad because he says stereo.
And the stereo.
So it makes me laugh every single time I hear it. But that's what we're playing, musical theme of the week. We'll get some more. I'm telling you, the next one might make you angry. The first time I heard it, it made me angry.
Ooh.
But it's grown on me because it shouldn't exist.
What a tease.
We'll play that one
What a
at the next break. We're going to get to more college football. We'll recap National Signing Day. If we see any other news, if you guys see it on the text line, send that in 512-447-3776. If you see anything we haven't mentioned or we'll get into it, we get going in the 5 o'clock hour as well. Do want to talk some NBA. Ja Morant makes his return from a 25-game suspension, a very long suspension, especially for off-court stuff and for not drugs, but just for continued offenses of the players' conduct
unbecoming
of the league and unbecoming. I think 25 is probably the longest we've seen of any suspension of that type. And yes, I'm not saying he's not warranted.
It was back-to-back offenses.
It was like 3 or 4 in a row.
I know.
Because there was multiple things. There's some that weren't on camera and then a bunch on camera. And so it is what it is. He comes back. The Grizzlies were struggling. They were had only won 6 games this whole season. They're playing the Pelicans, who are doing pretty good. A team that may need to make a trade at some point this season just because they have a lot of depth, but they're not necessarily playing at the level they need to be playing at all the time. But Ja Morant comes back, puts up 34 points, and hits the game winner to beat the Grizzlies 115-113. Shows up, shows that he knows how to still play with this team, shows that he knows still how to go. He does go 0 for 5 from 3, so it is going to take him a little bit because I don't know. There is no real training for.
He was never a massive 3-point threat anyway.
No, but it just does take you a little bit of time to get used to shooting in game versus shooting in a gym. And you can train for that all day long, but when someone's on you, defending you like that and at an NBA level, then that takes a little bit longer. And they have some good wings as well for the Pelicans, but they went to get the win. So you see Ja Morant come back. Does this put Grizzlies back in the conversation? They're about 8-10 games out of that play-in spot right now. Do you think they're probably a shoe-in for the play-in?
So the Grizzlies are all the way back from what I saw last night. That was an immediate boost to that offense.
Oh, huge.
And Ja Morant is absolutely electrifying to watch play basketball. I'm so happy he's getting to play again. I hope he's learned. I really do. Some of his comments lately have shown me that maybe he might lean the other direction eventually. But I'm very excited he's back for now because one of my favorite parts of the day is in the morning, turn on SportsCenter, and Ja Morant's just flying through the air, dunking on somebody.
He is. I was kind of expecting him to do finger guns when he hit the shot, though.
Oh, no, probably leave that one in the holster. Yeah, leave that one. You don't need that.
Another note, though, this is the other one, is you can kind of tell how the Pelicans are going this season is how Zion is putting the effort in. And he had a contact. He was going against Jaren Jackson Jr., and he's going against some of these guys that are bigger and want to bump with him. He kind of disappears.
Yeah.
And it's not that he doesn't want, it's not that he can't. It's that I don't know if he wants to.
No.
It's been the question for Zion since the beginning. Zion who gets put on a diet and says, I'm not doing it. And Zion who gets told to do one thing and says, I'm not doing that. And now we see him. He had 13 points and 3 rebounds in that game. Only played 25 minutes.
Good for you, Zion. Way to stick it to him.
Yeah, but at what point, when he gets his contract, he gets what he wants, he's somebody that you watch, and when you see him play the way he can play, you say, this guy could be one of the best players in the NBA. And then you watch him against the Grizzlies last night, and you say, is this guy going to play? Like, at what point does he just go, I'm good? Or is it going to be...
What point does the organization say, I'm good?
And move on? Well, I think that's coming at some point. If he stays healthy for a season, and the problem is his numbers are really good, and so it's got that potential that he could be an MVP.
So do you think it's a ploy to get out of there then?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think he's still just young, and he doesn't,
he's just irresponsible.
He doesn't want to.
Yeah.
So, and that's one of the things I talk about of where you may need to make a change there to bring in somebody who's a little bit more of that star competitor. And I think that's kind of, and there's not a lot of guys out there that you can bring in right now that have that attitude. CJ McCollum's a little better, but CJ McCollum is a secondhand guy. He's not the guy. And Brandon Ingram's the guy. Brandon Ingram doesn't seem like I'm going to get in your face, let's go win this game.
No. Brandon Ingram, he'll score, but he's not going to, yeah, you're right. He's not going to be your motivational leader.
And so you need that motivational leader. You need that guy. Like if you put Zion Williamson with Kobe Bryant, he either retires, demands a trade, or becomes great.
Who does? Zion or Kobe?
Zion.
No.
But that's my point. Is like you saw it because like Pau Gasol was the example. If Pau Gasol goes and plays with Kobe Bryant, and Kobe gets him to be a consistent everyday player because he goes in there and goes, I'm going to work as hard as you work. I'll work twice as hard. I'll go do this. I want you to be great with me.
Dude, they got Andrew Bynum to be a household name on that team.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So you need to see that. There's a couple of names, so I want to bring this up to you because we're starting to hear some more trade rumors as teams are starting to go up and down. We're starting to see some injuries, some players some teams that may not be in the picture as much as others, contracts, and whether teams are deciding they're going to move on. Do you have? I have a couple names.
Okay.
For players. The first one is one on Chicago that people have talked about a lot. And DeMar DeRozan's one of those guys.
Yep.
But Zach LaVine is a guy that I'll put on that list. That Zach LaVine may be the next guy because the Bulls may go into full rebuild mode. Zach LaVine is one of the people that a lot of people feel they could make another guy, could make a next level player, and he's just never been able to get there on the Bulls. Maybe a change of scenery, maybe a change of coaching or something might bring it in, different teammates. He's never been able to get there. I don't know if that's the case or not.
What's the issue with Zach? Because I see him making all-star games. I see him making the three-point contest and winning it, the dunk contest, winning it. Like, I don't understand what the...
Consistency.
Okay.
It's consistency. It's the same. It's a similar thing to Zion, but not full on, of can you care for 82 games?
Okay.
Because, and when you're down by 15 points, are you the one trying to lead the comeback and going in and getting your team up for it? Can you be a leader? And he also falls into that weird category now of can he be a point guard in a world where there's not point guards? Can you play that position
you don't want
and
to,
share
right?
the ball? You do because you don't want to play. You don't want to have a point guard anymore.
Okay.
So if you don't want to have point guards anymore, you want Zach LaVine to play at your one, have the ball in his hands, but then also distribute the ball while he's still scoring. And with DeMar DeRozan, with some other guys, Lonzo Ball was supposed to be part of that and have him play off ball some more. It hasn't worked out for him. Another name, Donovan Mitchell.
Really?
All the rumors now, he has another year and a player option on his contract. So he's got this year, and then I think maybe even 2 more years. But all signs are that he does not want to be in Cleveland. He doesn't want to stay there. He's not necessarily happy in Cleveland.
So you'd have to eat that contract then, right?
So his contract's not bad.
Okay.
His contract's not bad. The question is, can you get him to stay? And he's a guy that I'm curious with. Could you put him in New Orleans? Because they have a lot of pieces that could go to Cleveland and help out Cleveland.
Oh, you think he would be that motivational, let's go win the game?
I think it's interesting if you put him on that team that he is going to be a demand the ball guy and change up the system more than CJ McCollum does. That CJ McCollum is going to be the I'm going to play with everybody, will be copacetic. I think Donovan Mitchell could shake things up enough that it could get that team going where now you have Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum going full force. And if they're going full force, Zion may just come by natural energy in the room.
Right.
That the energy may pick up because now 2 guys want to go. It may not work, but I think also that's a guy you can put in there and he could make a difference. If you have some depth and you have extra guys,
what is Donovan
you have a couple
Mitchell
draft
worth?
picks. I mean, I don't think you have to give up a ton to get him. So you're probably going to give up CJ McCollum in him.
Sure.
Because you just, you can't keep both of those guys.
Right.
So you give up him and then probably 2 draft picks and a bench player.
Yeah. Like Herb Jones.
I would try and keep Herb Jones.
I know you would, but
but one
you're
of those
asking
guys,
for Donovan Mitchell.
but you may be able to get a 3-and-D guy. They have a couple of 3-and-D guys, 3 wings. They have like 2 or 3 wings that they can give up in this.
Okay.
So that's somebody that I'd look at as well. Do you have anybody you put on your list?
I saw the Zach LaVine to the Lakers is something I saw rumored.
Yes.
The Lakers and Bulls, but then I saw the Athletic reported the Lakers have greater interest in DeMar DeRozan and Alex Caruso if either become available. So that's what kind of spurred my thinking of what is wrong with Zach LaVine? Why are people...
His contract. His contract is a big one, too, in the trade market, that he is getting paid like a star player.
Okay.
And, if you're trying to get him, I don't think many teams are getting him as the number 1, and he's getting paid much closer to a number 1 than a number 2.
Okay.
And so teams don't want to trade for a guy that they say, well, he may even be a number 3.
But you can have the Bulls eat some of that.
Not really in the NBA. You're going to, you still have salary cap, you still have luxury tax, you have stuff like that. So the CBA works a little bit different there. So, it's not so much the money you'd have to pay him as the salary cap. How do we get in this and not go into that next threshold because they redid the CBA and the thresholds are more painful than they used to be.
Gotcha.
So you don't want to get into those thresholds. So can you win with him on your roster with that cap number?
Right.
I think that's an issue, and that's when you look at DeRozan. Of course, they want Caruso back. They screwed up on DeRozan.
Who doesn't want Caruso?
They don't want to
back?
give up for him. I think that's a pipe dream for Lakers fans, I believe. Because basically you're like, we have to give up a ton to get DeRozan and then throw in Caruso. You're like, no, you're trading for Caruso and throwing in DeRozan.
Right.
As good as DeRozan is, I love DeRozan, but he's an expiring contract.
He's over the hill.
And he's an expiring contract. So you say, well, we're bringing him in for a year, and then we're going to lowball contract him anyway.
Right. Caruso's the real get. Yeah.
Yeah. So but those are some interesting ones. The Jazz are also someone to be watched because they have a ton of picks, but they're not really competing at a high level this year. So a guy like Lauri Markkanen or Jordan Clarkson or somebody like that.
There's no way they get rid of Markkanen.
If you get the right price for it.
I guess.
If you get the right price. I mean, you see what they got for Rudy Gobert.
I would think more.
You see what they got for Donovan Mitchell.
I know.
And there's a point where they could say, well, let's sell him while he's high, and people are treating him like he's an all-star, even though he's more in that Kristaps Porzingis range of a good player, but not a perennial all-star.
I think there's more there. I really do. And I
think there could be, but we also know he was bad when he was in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And he explained it, which I love the thing, which was when he went to Cleveland, he got the new contract and was so worried about making the shots because he was like, every shot he missed, he was like, I'm ruining everything.
I'm costing the team money.
I'm costing the team, and I'm ruining everything. And when he got traded, or when he went to Utah and was basically thrown away, he was like, well, screw it now. Like, what are they going to do?
Nowhere to go but up.
Yeah, and so it changed his mindset, and then he was able to start hitting threes.
Keep him on the minimum.
But I know when you start to put him and make him try and make that bigger and bigger guy, I don't know if he's the guy to ever be that guy in a major market or that guy, like where you could put, if you try and put him like the Knicks or somebody, I don't know if it necessarily.
So then maybe you take all that draft capital that they have and you go get a superstar to put and complement Markkanen.
And I get that. The issue with Utah is they're going to try and do that, but they have to find somebody who's willing to play in Utah in today's age.
That's tough.
And that's another difficult position for them. But I think there's someone to watch because they could accumulate more picks and do that. If they don't want it, they're saying, well, we don't.
If they're saying next year
we have a couple other guys and we don't, someone's paying for this guy. We'll sell if they're overpaying. And Danny Ainge does that a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Danny Ainge is a master of that.
He also, he loves picking up those draft picks.
Couple of games tonight to check out. The Hawks are playing at the Rockets. Rockets 3.5-point favorites. Will be a fun game to watch with DeJounte and Trae Young going against this really good at-home defense of the Rockets. We'll see. I have to imagine that both those guys are going to get slowed down a bit.
Maybe just a little bit.
So it should be a fun one to watch there. And the Clippers, 1.5-point favorites at the Mavs. Still a huge injury report for the Mavs. Derek Lively still out. Josh Green still out. Maxi Kleber still out. Kyrie Irving still out.
When I saw it this morning, it was at 4.5 though. So something is moving.
Something's moving. It may be the Clippers line. It may be someone. Paul George is questionable, I believe.
Okay.
So it's probably something more on that
maybe
end.
He's leaning more towards not playing.
Yeah, but I think we should see a record number of pull-up three-pointers between Luka and James Harden tonight. Just guarded step-back threes.
Step backs. Just step back, step back, step back.
We will see all that. But it'll be a fun game to watch tonight with Clippers and Mavs as well. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get to some of your text messages. We're asking you the poll of the day. Which freshman will have the biggest game in the Sugar Bowl for Texas? Which freshman will have the biggest game in the Sugar Bowl? We'll get to that. 512-447-3776. When we come back here on the Sports Complex on the Horn 1019, AM 1260, the Horn app, hornfm.com. Oh, back at the sports complex. I told you to make some of you mad.
That was, I don't know why that simple hook got me, the taking care of Christmas.
It's
because
the
I
worst-
knew it was coming too.
It's the worst and the best thing at the same time.
I heard him go into it, and I knew it was gonna be Christmas. Is what we're gonna replace it with.
And I don't know the first name of Turner in Bachman Turner Overdrive, but this is Randy Bachman from Bachman Turner Overdrive.
Okay.
So it is the guy from Taking Care of Business doing it again. Oh, it's so bad, and it's so unnecessary.
But that's just how he is, right?
And they were like, "Well, what do you want to do a Christmas song?" They're like, "Well, I don't want to write anything new. Just change the lyrics up. We're taking care of business."
Why? Why change what's working?
Oh my good. But that is Randy Bachman with "Taking Care of Christmas."
Taking care of Christmas.
Solid. If you wanna get some guttural reactions, play that. If you can find that on a jukebox and play
Taking
it
care of Christmas,
and play it at a bar on Christmas Eve with just a bunch of angry drunks.
or just go to like shows around town and just yell, "Do you know Taking Care of Christmas?"
You play that one? Do you know "Taking Care of Business"? And then I'll show you other lyrics. It's the same song.
Hey, you know how people shout out "Free Bird"? No, it's just Taking Care of Christmas.
Good Lord. Text line's open 512-447-3776. We're asking you which freshman will have the biggest impact for Texas in the Sugar Bowl. Also, we talked about the Chip Kelly comments earlier today. If you got any takes of how to fix the transfer portal, or at least improve the transfer portal, improve college football going in the future, send those in as well. Texter says, I had a concussion, separated shoulder, and meniscus all in junior high, not even high school yet. Yeah, you can get beat up pretty early.
What position were you playing?
All of them.
No, he's probably playing running back.
Yeah.
See, that's why you never would have made any money anyway.
You would have been screwed anyway. And virtual school, and there's longer trips across country. It is. You can do virtual school. Virtual school is harder, though, depending on if it's 6 hours of travel. And then you have to get to 6 to 7 hours of travel.
Well, it depends on the virtual school, too, because like they have the self-paced stuff that is.
No, they do. But it's more about time in a day. When your travel now includes, okay, well, we're on a 6 hour flight. We're on a bus. We have to go in, and then we're going to get on a bus and then go there. It's an 8 hour day to get from from your place to a hotel room.
Well, I would think you go spend the week there on the longer ones.
And no, so you have 8 hours, so that day is basically wasted. That you don't even get a practice. You maybe get a little schoolwork done, and then you have the next day, and you try and work on that. But it just becomes more difficult as time goes on to have those long breaks, and especially when you're talking about softball or talking about baseball, and you're talking about every single week this happening, where as opposed to basketball, where you could just do 3 games in a week if you really wanted to, but you're going to try and put those in a little bit more of a tight package and not have people over. You can do virtual school, but it's still the added hours of travel as opposed to this is a 3 hour travel day for us or a 4 hour travel where we're getting on a charter flight and we're, you meet here, we get on the charter flight, we're there, we're in a hotel room in 4 hours. This could be 8 to 10 hours doing that a lot of times going across the country.
Multiple times a year, yeah.
Yeah. And just what that does to your body as well, depending on, because depending on, or some of these schools that don't even want to pay for flights for some people when it's volleyball or softball or something like that where they're trying to cut costs.
Oh, come on. You can fly a volleyball team.
I agree you can. I'm just saying some of these schools may not care as much.
Well, they don't have national champion volleyball
They
teams.
do not. They don't have a defending 2-time national champions.
Sorry about it. And one of the Nebraska players transferred to Texas.
I know. Yeah. Is that why that dude was so mad? Austin Frog says, I worry about the timing of that structure. Have them play football for 4 years, not taking any classes. And then once they realize it's not going to start, the class start is 22-year-old freshman students. There is. This goes into.
The military does that kind of thing all the time.
Most people don't work in the military. That's why we honor our veterans in a different way than we honor our college students.
Well, most people also aren't college athletes.
They aren't. But it's a different world, I would say. Texter says Anthony Hill as a freshman. We got to take a quick break. All right. We got a few minutes commercials. We'll hit those. We'll come right back. We'll get into more of your comments. We'll recap National Signing Day for Texas. See if we get any more news here in the break. We'll get into all of that. We'll talk some NFL as well. We got some power rankings coming out.
Ooh.
See if Jacob has moved the Cowboys down or if he's moved them up.
All 10 spots. Dallas.
We'll get into all that. We come back here on the Horn 109 AM 1260, the Horn app and hornfm.com. Hour 2 here on the Sports Complex on a Wednesday afternoon. National Signing Day. We'll talk a little bit more, recap some of the signing day news. I've not seen any other signings coming.
I have not
Whether
seen
transfer,
it. I have not seen it hit my
anyone else.
timeline. Have not.
So we don't know if someone else does. Make sure to hit us up on the text line.
If you've got a better Twitter follow than me for this kind of news, let me know.
We're going to get into some NFL, our power rankings. Another coach is on the hot seat. And we got to follow up on our story yesterday. We got to follow up about Tommy DeVito.
Oh, the Italian stallion.
The Italian and his nefarious actions to thwart a small business.
Him and his Italian sports American Hall of Famer agent.
I know I can't put. I don't know what order those.
I don't
words
know
go
the
in
order
either.
is.
Yeah, I don't know. They're the right words.
Give me the acronym right now.
I bet it's a cuss word. I don't know. But we're going to get to all that, and of course, more of your text messages. Keep sending in text messages. Big fat poll of the day today is which freshman is going to have the biggest impact in the Sugar Bowl, and also if you want to text in, if you have any solutions or ideas. Right, we were talking about Chip Kelly and his ideas for the future of college football. Send those in as well. And if you got NFL power rankings, we're going to get to those in just a minute. So
Oh, I like that. I want to see y'all's power rankings.
Yeah, you can send your power rankings. Jacob's going to be mad if Dallas isn't first.
No, if they're not all five.
All five he wants
Give
in
us
there.
the top five, and they better all be Dallas, or it's wrong.
Or it's wrong. If you missed signing day, what we were talking about in signing day earlier, there's been one flip away from Texas. Aaron Hampton, the 4-star athlete, flipped to Alabama from Texas. That is the one negative that we've got today.
You mean from Texas to Alabama.
From Texas to Alabama, yes.
Yeah.
He goes there, but the news that Ryan Wingo, all of the talk earlier today that Ryan Wingo may leave.
And there was a lot
of talk that Nebraska was going for him hard, that Missouri, where he had originally committed, was coming back after him. They wanted him to come back to Missouri. A lot of, I guess, family and people were coming after him as well to stay in Missouri. He says no, he's still coming to Texas. Ryan Wingo, the 5-star wide receiver, is coming to Texas. They also get Brandon Baker to sign today, a 5-star offensive tackle, the 5-star plus edge Colin Simmons that a lot of people thought may make a change. He signs with Texas today. They also get 4-star defensive tackle DeAndre Robinson, 4-star tight end Jordan Washington, 4-star Xavier Filsaime signs as well. 4-star running back Jared Gibson, 4-star cornerback Kobe Black, 4-star athlete Wardell Mack, 4-star quarterback Trey Owens, and 4-star edge Zena Omizulu. There's a plethora of 3 stars as well. They've got a really good recruiting class coming in for Texas. A couple other names to look out for. People that did not sign today.
Pushing it out to February.
That Texas may be looking at. A couple 5-star defensive linemen, Dominic McKinley and LJ McCray. Dominic McKinley is committed to A&M right now, but possibly. Right. He's looking around. Maybe. He may not. He may change. He may stay, but he is going to sign in February. LJ McCray, Florida commit. A lot of transition in Florida right now. So he is saying he's going to sign in February. And Dylan Evans was one that I believe said today that Texas was always his dream school, but he is committed to A&M. But he has said that Texas is his dream school, so people are saying, well, maybe Texas will go after him as well.
I'll take it.
So all people to look at there. They also get Matthew Golden and Makubu both signed today as transfers.
Tampering.
We still not heard anything about Trey Moore. Trey Moore is the edge from UTSA.
I really thought he was going to do it during the game.
We thought he was going to do it during the game. No, we did not think that.
Really?
But he is still projected to come to Texas, but we have not heard anything on him. So until we do, we can't. It's all speculation. But we have all that. If you find anybody else, make sure to send it on the text line. We're going to get to the text line in just a second. Actually, why don't we go there right now? 512-447-3776. Arbor Horn 81 says the obvious answer will be C.J. Baxter. Of course, he's going to be our starting running back. And we know we talked about it the other day about how porous the running game was for Texas in the Alamo Bowl last year.
He's definitely got something to prove.
51 rushing yards last year for Texas in the game. There is some issues with the running last year, so they're going to try and fix that. C.J. Baxter is going to want to come out there and show what he can do because he's going to handle the ball more than any other freshman, but I'm hoping the freshman player that has the biggest impact on the game will be linebacker Anthony Hill. Have you seen this guy play? I have.
Once or twice.
He is getting better and better each week and is just plain nasty. The kind of linebacker Texas has needed for some time. Arbor Horn 81 there. And I think basically what you see with Anthony Hill is you see a lot of things that DeMarvion Overshawn did last year, but he's doing them as a freshman where DeMarvion, it took him a lot longer to evolve into that player and be able to rush and be able to stand back. And he's showing some things that DeMarvion doesn't do so he's not fully a DeMarvion Overshawn, but he's filming his own pads. Anthony Hill does some of the things, fix that, why he's also number 0.
And he is violent.
Yes.
violent at the point of attack.
So to see him and what he can do, this just being his freshman year, you want to see him do well because he is somebody that can really make the game difficult for a guy like Michael Penix Jr. if he's playing his A game.
Yeah.
Scarlett says, we kind of need that entire freshman class to ball out. All of them have to impact this game. We need Manny and Derek locking those receivers down. We need Hill to wreak havoc. We need Baxter to grinding out those yards. We need all of them, and I'm good with that because they're all extremely talented. We do. You do need all of them to show up. I agree with that, Scarlett. You do need everybody to show up there and play a big game. Texter Eric in Cedar Park says Anthony Hill by far. A lot of people want to see Anthony Hill come out and make that difference on the defense. I feel Penix has played questionable under pressure this year. Therefore, a game plan should be put Anthony Hill in prime position to be the most impactful freshman. I like that. I said Ethan Burke as well in that game, that if he's able to come out, he is the sack leader for Texas this season. If Ethan Burke has a big game pressuring and being able to get on the outside, and really you want to see Colin Johnson, their running back, Dylan Johnson, the running back, you want to see him get stopped. He tries to go out in the middle a lot. So if Tavondre and Byron Murphy can kind of stop up that middle and bring pressure up the middle and stop the run that way and let the edge rushers come in, let Anthony Hill come in, and Michael Penix Jr. has to throw, you can drop more guys back in coverage. It all kind of works together.
And I'm telling you, Dylan Johnson is the secret catalyst to that Washington offense.
It is a big piece of it. I mean, they're going to be able to throw the ball. We've seen other teams do it against Texas. But on the flip of that, if you take them and make them completely one-dimensional,
right,
it makes it a lot harder. Rye Guy from New Mexico, well, I would hope the Pelicans would have good wings. Solid dad joke, Rye Guy. Solid dad joke. I think just out of pure volume, Cedric Baxter will have the biggest impact as a freshman. I like that.
Going with the numbers, law of averages.
Back when I played high school football in the early 2000s, I think I could count one hand the number of concussions I remember actually being counted. It wasn't until in college that I realized getting your bell rung was most likely a minor concussion. The only concussions we counted were ones where people couldn't remember where they were basically. Yeah. No, believe me. I did not know why my head used to hurt when I played when in 6th grade. And I was like, I hate this so much. And it was like, oh, because you just kept getting concussed because you weren't taught right technique.
Y'all didn't have strict concussion protocols?
No, I just remember we'd line up and they put a 2x4 down. We'd run at each other.
Oh.
And then you would wake up on the ground.
Oh.
And they'd be like, back of the line. And you
wow.
go, okay.
That's an interesting drill. What was that drill working on? Exactly.
What was that drill working on?
Yeah.
Patrick not remembering things when he was.
Is that just a toughness drill? What are we doing today, Coach? We're doing toughness.
It was, hey, all the kids we don't like on one side and the kids we like on the other.
Oh, and the kids you like were the ones holding the 2x4?
No, they were the ones that knew how to tackle. Freak Nasty ATX says Jared Elliott after getting the Nebraska transfer and shows. Nice gif there from Freak Nasty.
That's right.
Getting that transfer.
How do you think he felt? And because he probably knew about it afterwards, right? After the national title game. Jared Elliott, he probably had an idea.
Oh, I think both coaches knew.
Yeah.
I think that was what was salty about it.
And so he had that little half smirk during his press conference.
When he was texting her like, hey, when we win this national championship tonight, do you want a ring? And she goes, I'm getting one.
Ooh.
Chief engineer, Toastery is a breakfast place, he says.
It's a breakfast. Oh, so it is an establishment.
It's an establishment.
They must have a ton of money.
I've never been.
I've never even seen one.
I didn't know. I look, and hats off to them for being the blandest place in the world. I thought Cracker Barrel was the whitest place in the world, but apparently when you're like, we're going to name ourselves after toast.
I like to envision it more as a place where you go to have your bread toasted.
I think it's a place where they come in and they go, you like flavor? Go next door.
To me, it's
we're
like
the Toastery.
It's like one of those digital libraries where you go in and they just have computers set up, except it's just toasters. And there's no entry. You just walk in, it's like, hey, we have toasters available for everybody. If you need to toast your bread or your bagel.
You need a toaster. I know sometimes your toaster goes out at home.
You got to bring it.
You can toast bread for the whole week. Get out of the way. Get your toasting done.
We got a vacuum sealer in the back.
We got a 20 slice toaster. You can do it all at once. We're that ready. The best freshman playing Anthony Hill or Colton Vasek. I don't know if Vasek's going to get too much time in this game.
Not sure, but that would be cool.
That'd be cool. I think the other Westlake edge, Ethan Burke, might be more important in the game.
I think he might have a little bit bigger impact.
And love that Curtis Blow taking it back old school. If you can't bob your head to that beat, that is not Weird Al. That was not Weird Al. No, that was actually Randy Bachman from Bachman Turner.
Yeah,
Overtime.
no, he realizes it later on in the text thread because he hears you talking about it, and I saw him chime in, and he was like, "Oh, that's not Weird Al."
That is not Weird Al. No, that's what makes it so annoying. And also, if it was Weird Al, I'd be disappointed Because it's not good enough to be a Weird Al song.
Right. Okay.
Because it's a very lazy attempt by Randy Bachman to make a few bucks. Just celebrating Christmas.
Hey, do you know taking care of business?
Yeah, do you know this? And I will change it. And everyone knows what's coming, but they're still going to be mad about it. And tip on Extreme Heat. I think they're coming. They're playing in Saxon Pub in January. I think I saw that on one of their posts. But yeah, no, so Extreme Heat. If you like a Tower of Power or something like that, check out Extreme Heat. They've been around in town for a long time. Awesome band.
Great name.
Now, and it says not a Cowboys fan or hater. They got destroyed by running the ball. Can Dan Quinn switch to a 46 defense? I don't think so. I don't think they had the players. They need interior line help in next year's draft. They tried to draft this year with Mozzie Smith. They re-signed Tyler Hankins. They tried to get help, and Hankins got hurt, and Mozzie Smith has not been the guy yet.
And DeMarvion Overshown, Agent Zero.
Yeah, and so they are, they tried to bring in some guys. It is not working. You can drink at Cracker Barrel now.
Really? Interesting. I was not aware of that.
And Everett Joseph's freshman impact. We'd love to see Ethan Burke go all psycho on lacrosse on Penix. Ethan Burke is not a freshman. Colton Vosick is the freshman from Westlake.
Right.
Not sure he's going to play a ton. Ethan Burke is older, but I think he's going to have. He was one of my X Factor players when we were talking about X Factors yesterday. Ethan Burke was one of those.
Would be pretty cool.
Would be very cool. I do want to get into some power rankings here for the NFL because I want to know, Jacob, where your head is at.
We're going to do them one at a time.
We can do them one at a time. Do you want to start at 5 or 1?
We'll start at 5.
We'll start at 5.
Actually,
you want to start? I'll start at 1 because I know we're going to go with. We'd have the same one.
Right.
It's not the Cowboys.
Dang it. All right, start at 5.
We're starting at 1. Our 1 is about the 49ers, right?
Yeah, it's San Francisco.
You have to go 49ers. They're still playing the best basketball, best football out there. So that's where I put them. Number 2, I have the Baltimore Ravens.
I also have the Baltimore Ravens.
Baltimore Ravens looking good. They just took out the Jags completely.
Well, and they get a chance to play each other this weekend.
They get to go in there. It is going to be, they right now are the team that you look at and say, as of right now, you look like you're going to be in the Super Bowl.
Yep.
And if I were to pick the Super Bowl NFC, AFC, that's 1 and 2 for me.
Oh, yeah.
That's 49ers and Ravens right now. Now anything can happen. Now we get a number 3.
Yep.
Who's your number 3?
Dallas.
You saw Dallas there. I moved Dallas down to my number 4.
Okay. That's
I had the Miami Dolphins actually ahead of them.
Really?
I moved the Miami Dolphins up there. I think the Miami Dolphins are a good team that has shown that they have some ability. They've not shown it at points this season, but I have more faith in them to continue to grow as a younger team and a plan. And now if we say Tyreek Hill is not healthy for the rest of the season, they fall off that. Okay. But I think Tyreek Hill comes back. They were able to do well enough without Tyreek Hill. You know, with the first time they lost him, they game planned around it a little bit more last week. I have not seen if he's playing against the Cowboys or not.
They said he's pushing towards a start.
So,
yeah.
But if we see him come back, then I put them ahead of the Cowboys right now because of the weapons they have and because of how they've shown they can use them.
So does this weekend do anything for you?
It does.
Okay.
Because if the Cowboys respond this week and they go and shut down a team that is going to try and run on them, is going to try and do things, if they can shut that down.
But they were on that West Coast run, man. They're trying to hit the outside edge and hit a cutback.
I know, but we'll see.
All right.
It's your number 4 then. So I have 3 at Dolphins, 4 as Cowboys.
Number 4 for me is Detroit.
You have Detroit coming in at number 4.
I think Detroit woke back up last week, and I think that team is ready to roll late into the season here.
I think Detroit's going to be good. That was one of those games, though, where we knew there was no run defense on the other side. They do have 2 really good running backs. You kind of knew what they were going to be able to do. Jared Goff had a good game, too. But I'm not going to put everything on that because I haven't seen them consistently put it together. And at least everybody else on this list, I've seen put together things consistently throughout the season, and Detroit feels like that team that could lose in the first playoff game really easily still to me. Even though they're playing well, they just don't ever seem like they've really figured it out.
Will you make sure to record that bit for me so that I can splice it together? You saying Dallas is both in your power rankings and this is a group of teams you've seen consistently put everything together. Will you please grab that for me?
Dallas consistently beats bad teams at home.
Oh, I know. I'm just making sure. I'm just glad you have finally come around to it.
That Dallas consistently beats bad teams at home.
Oh, I didn't catch that part. Yeah, Dang it.
I'm going to cut where you said, I know.
Ah. All right, never mind. Don't save that. Go ahead, dump it.
Number 5.
Yeah, number 5 is Miami for me.
Okay, so you have Miami in there. I'm going to put number 5. So it's an oddball team, but they're playing really good football right now.
Don't do it.
Cleveland Browns.
Oh, okay. I'm actually okay with that.
Cleveland Browns are my number 5 right now. I think Detroit's in there, but I think if you just look at Cleveland and you say, man, if they figure out a little even more in that offense continues to grow. That defense is so good.
Can Joe do it? Can Joe Flacco make that run?
Can you keep figuring out how to make that offense work and that defense keep going? And that team, I say defense travels and defense works in the playoffs.
Definitely
and all
does.
that. And there's not a better – I mean, the 49ers have a really good defense. The 49ers may be, that may be too much. But every other team, Ravens, they're a better defense than the Ravens. The Ravens have a good defense, right? Browns are better.
Cleveland has been the number one defense all year.
And so I'd say the 49ers are competitive with them. But that's the only other team.
Okay, I thought you were going to move Buffalo up there. I've seen that a lot on TV.
No. I'm not giving them 1 week. I'm not going to say in 1 week they fix all their
bottle.
problems.
I mean,
no, I think because I trust the Browns more to stop the Bills.
Right, and the Bills have also lost to the Jags and the Eagles, and
and I trust Joe Flacco to not throw 4 picks. Can't say the same about Josh Allen.
Dude, Joe Flacco's got 2 million reasons to go make a Super Bowl run too. Have you heard about that incentive list for his contract?
I don't think he's got a lot of reasons.
So he's got stair steps to his contract, and it's like 1.5 million for the playoff wins, and then 2 million for the Super Bowl.
Joe Flacco has his legacy.
I know.
And Joe Flacco's legacy now, where he'd be like, "You wait, 2 defensive dominant teams. They're completely built around defense,
100%.
But 2 Super Bowl wins,
dude. No, Joe Flacco only has 1.
No, but if he wins this year.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's the same kind of setup, right?
That's what I'm saying. In 2 different teams and years after everybody thought you were gone and you were a throwaway and you weren't even in the league.
And who was his offensive weapon? He had Torrey Smith, Jacoby Jones.
I'm telling you, it's a crazy story. It's very unlikely to happen, but it's a crazy story to look at for him. That I think the $2 million, yeah, sure, that's great. However,
I love that incentive plan.
That story, though, the story where he gets to go and be like, name another quarterback who is just thought of as such a waste of space as me, with 2 rings with 2 different teams, like 10 years apart.
Nick Foles, if he ever finds another place to come fill in.
That's my point. Yeah. If he does it. That's the thing. Nobody does it.
Yeah, big Richard Nick.
And then another story real quick, that the Jets have activated Aaron Rodgers.
This is cool. I like this.
He's not going to play this season. They have been mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers is not coming back. He said it the other day. So it was odd that we saw all that he said he's not coming back, and then they activated him. But they did. They basically said, hey, we're already looking at next year.
Yep.
So we want him to come back and start practicing. And if he's on the IR, we can't have a practice. We don't care about a 53-man roster. We're out of the playoffs.
They're trying to preserve their roster. They don't want anybody getting antsy.
So they want people to get excited, go play with him. They're going to put 5 bubbles around him, and if you breathe on Aaron Rodgers in practice,
oh, dude, Aaron's gonna be on his own field.
Win sprints.
Directed by Aaron.
Yes. But yeah, an interesting thing seeing him put on there. Okay, I'm gonna take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get back to the text line. I also want to talk about the coach on the hot seat.
Yep.
Because I think it's interesting, and Texas fans care about this too. It's an interesting one. I think it's more of a no-brainer than other people do.
Me too.
But we'll get into that. We'll also talk about Tommy DeVito doing the right thing.
He's a sweet boy.
Do the right thing about Italian pizza shop owner. Spike Lee was not involved in this, though.
Really?
As far as I know. He should have been.
You think so?
I don't know if he's a Giants fan. Maybe just a Knicks fan.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. We're going to get to all that. And your text message, 512-447-3776. We come back here on the Sports Complex on the Horn 109, AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Back on the Sports Complex here on the Horn. Solid song. Christmas with the Devil. Should be on everybody's Christmas playlist.
Who's it by again?
This is by Spinal Tap.
It sounds like Tenacious D.
Spinal Tap was before. I mean, like, if you ever watched Spinal Tap,
No.
you should. It's an amazing movie.
Okay.
But it's three comedians that
okay.
pretend to be a band.
I was gonna say because it seems like a Tenacious D song, and he kind of sounds like the brother.
So this is Michael McKean. If you ever watch Better Call Saul,
Yes.
I guess the dad, Better Call Saul, the guy.
Oh yeah.
That's him.
That's him?
I can't remember his name now, but they all had characters, and it's a great movie where they all play rockers that come to England, and then
I'm gonna check it out.
It's one of my all-time favorite movies. But yeah, they had a couple albums that came out, and they put Christmas on with the Devil on there. It's a all-time classic Christmas song.
That's fantastic. I was almost certain it was Tenacious D when they started singing.
It's a similar, but yeah, it's a hard rock band. They have the great line. They had the Black Album where it could be no blacker, but you couldn't read anything on it. It was just all blank. There's so many great lines from that movie, and when you tour with a band and you'll have your Spinal Tap moments,
That's such a great concept.
it's so good. Yeah, it's basically they basically took all these stories from the road and all this stuff and kind of made it into one movie. It's great. It's so good, so good. Rob Reiner's directing it, and he's like hosting. It's supposed to be like it's a mockumentary,
Yeah, sure.
but it's really good stuff. It's good stuff.
I'll be checking that out.
You got it.
That's good.
I did want to get into some coaches. Text line's open, 512-447-3776. See, Chief Engineer knows. He knows.
Chief Engineer always knows.
We'll get into a little story. The first story I want to get into came out today, and it's been coming out more after the weekend, after the Panthers beat the Falcons.
Ugh.
When no one was at Carolina, which I was laughing at Chris Berman in the fastest 3 minutes on Monday night when, and they cut to like a tight shot of like 12 fans at Carolina. He's like, it's raining and the team's bad, but the fans still showed up. And I'm like, Chris, pan out, Chris, pan out. There's no one there.
Lowest attendance in any NFL game except for the COVID year.
Yeah. So that is what Chris Berman reported.
I also like how they've moved it from 2 minutes to 3 minutes. They got to give Chris a little bit more time to get through that.
Yeah. No, but it was so they go, but that was so they lose that game. And so Arthur Smith now is being listed on the hot seat. It was a super hot coaching prospect come out of Tennessee with that Derrick Henry run offense and just running the ball. Came to the Falcons, did okay with them without really a lot of talent. And they kept trying to build. They drafted. They don't ever really seem to get there. And people thought this might be the year as the NFC South is really down and maybe they can get some pieces. They draft Bijan Robinson. You say, man, you are the running back coach. You're the guy who runs the ball, and we just gave you the best running back in the class. Here we go.
Taken number one in most fantasy drafts overall because the combination was just too good.
It was too good.
Yeah.
So first off, let's say Arthur Smith's 20 and 28 as a head coach of the Falcons. Now
Ouch.
there has to be a rebuild period, but you're not expecting the rebuild to continue into year 3.
Right.
The biggest problem I have with Arthur Smith is that he does not play the picks. That Kyle Pitts is not being used the way Kyle Pitts needs to be used.
Right.
You drafted a tight end too early. You went for him and you said this is going to be our guy, and you don't use him. You drafted Bijan Robinson early. I won't say too early, but you drafted him early. If people say don't draft running backs early, you drafted him early, and you won't use him.
Yep.
You cannot say we're pieces away and then not use the pieces that you get. So if you don't want to fire Arthur Smith, you have to fire your general manager, right?
No, because the picks were spot on. The picks were right.
But you have to say, well, clearly you're not building the same team. Like you guys aren't having a conversation before this draft.
Oh, something has to change. Yes.
Something has to change.
Right.
So I don't know how you continue on. Now, there is a factor in the Arthur Smith where I do think the guy's not a bad coach, but I do think he's being stubborn. I think he's young, and I think probably him losing a job would not be the worst thing for him to realize he has to progress in his coaching.
Okay.
And because Arthur Smith, to me right now, is someone who coaches the way he wants to coach and not coach to the talent he has. And that, to me, is annoying. And some guys can win that way. Bill Belichick has won that way for a long time. That he coaches and he says, this is how I run my defense. It's how I want to run my defense, and I'll find the guys to fit into that. And if you don't fit it, cool. Malcolm Butler, you're not playing.
Well, maybe, because a lot of that winning came with the greatest QB of all
get it,
time
but I'm
on
saying,
his roster.
But his defense, we can admit, Bill Belichick had some of the best defenses going.
Sure.
So I'm just saying defensively.
Okay.
And for Arthur Smith, I expected offensively. I'm not counting him on the defense. The defense did hold Carolina to 9 points. You just couldn't score.
I think they were top 6 all year, their defense.
That's what I'm saying. So the defense isn't the problem.
Right.
It's the offense, and you're an offensive coach. And you're not using the pieces that we gave you. Now, the scapegoat everyone's going for is Desmond Ridder. That he doesn't have a quarterback.
I agree with that.
And we all agree with that. However, again, this goes back to the coach and the general manager. Then fire one of them.
Yeah,
because
that decision came from one of you.
Because now twice in 2 drafts, you didn't draft anybody. You went ahead and said, we're going to try and find somebody else. We're not going to go get another quarterback in the 4th, 5th, 6th round and bring up another option. We're going to bring in Heineke, who we're not going to trust. We're not really going to try and find, because we want the perfect guy. But you're not going to get the perfect guy.
No.
You have to find somebody else. Look at what the Cowboys did with Dak Prescott. And you said, all right, we don't really draft quarterbacks, but this guy, we found a guy that we think could be good. And worse, he's a really model citizen, and he's going to be great on our bench, and then we'll move on.
I'm not going to be real loud around that guy behind Tony and all that.
You have to be able to do that. So that part of it, the snag in all of this that I feel has come where a lot of people might be meaner to him in the press, where I feel like a lot of people are standoffish and being too aggressive against Arthur Smith.
Okay.
Is who Arthur Smith's family is. And I'm not holding this against Arthur Smith.
Oh, the FedEx clan.
But his dad was a founder of FedEx.
Yeah.
And whenever you hear them talk about Arthur Smith versus some other coaches who would have similar problems and not use their drafted players and not use guys and continue to lose and and not be able to beat the Carolina Panthers, you'd probably be a little bit more than, I think he's a really good coach. They should probably fire him, but I think he's a really good coach.
He's a nice guy.
And I think Arthur Smith could be a good coach. We've seen him. He has ability. He falls into the coaching for me, where if you're not willing to evolve with the game and you're not willing to evolve as a coach, this is what happened with Sark, where we saw Sark in between years 1 and 2, you went, man, you need to change some. And he changed some. And he said, well, you still got to get better. We would talk about on Ball Don't Lie. Hey, look, these are clear flaws you have.
Yeah.
You have to fix those. And going into year 3 now, he started to get better and better at those. And the team is not blowing leads in the 4th quarter. And you're starting to change those things. With Arthur Smith, we're not seeing any changes.
Right, it's the same product every year.
We see him go, well, I need another running back. And they give him the best running back in the draft and probably one of the best 5 running backs in the NFL today.
Easily.
And he goes, I'm going to use Algiers.
In the red zone.
Because this is what I want. And Bijan Robinson keeps trying to evade tackles. I want him to hit guys head on and go through them.
That's not how we run the football here in Atlanta. Yeah.
And if you say that to me, go, cool, you're fired. I don't have time to wait for coaches who only need these. If you give me everyone's a 99 on Madden, I'll win. Yeah, everyone will.
So how much of his run game in Tennessee was, oh, what a great run game coordinator, or Derrick Henry's
there's parts of it because,
otherworldly?
No, because this is the reality of it is, if you have the guy, then he is elite as a coach. He goes, with this system and these players, he can be a great coach. But you can't always get those players.
Right.
And so I think we saw Derrick Henry not be the same without him. So clearly there's something to it. I don't think Derrick Henry's wheels completely fell off.
Sure.
I mean, part of it is that, but coaching the O-line, getting everybody in the right places, he can do something. But for me, the hot seat for Arthur Smith seems very justly deserved at this point. Arthur Blank, the owner, has said, let's wait till the end of the year. We're going to wait till see how the season plays out. But it feels like these next 3 weeks are going to be interesting for Atlanta in the fact that you feel like this is coaching for his job now. And does he try to overuse Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson in these last few weeks to appease?
Should.
Or does he put his feet in the ground and say, no, this is what we're doing? Does he switch quarterbacks 6 more times to not make a decision because he feels that, and then he's going to walk away and say, well, if I had a quarterback, with half the league.
Yeah, no.
Browns are winning.
And that leash getting real.
I put Browns number 5 in my pick. They have Joe Flacco.
They do have Joe Flacco.
A Joe Flacco that wasn't in the league. You could have signed him, man.
Man, yeah, it's not looking great for him, and it's got to be getting hot around his seat because they're in a very winnable division. The division winner last year had a below 500 record.
I think everybody is worried about in the NFC South. Dennis Allen's worried.
Yeah.
Todd Bowles is worried. Carolina's coach already got fired.
Frank Reich
already got fired. Every one of them.
Yeah, but
because this was the year. There's no one in front of you.
Nobody.
Guys, we're all at the starting line. Let's fire up them engines, and they all stalled.
No one can separate.
They're all pushing their cars.
Well, and to be fair, for the Carolina situation, Frank Reich didn't want to be there when the year started.
No, I know. He was his first year as a coach, too, which is a bad sign.
When you go to press conferences saying, like, I called the play for Adam Thielen, they're like, well, why didn't it go to him? And he goes, well, Adam Thielen wasn't on the field. Like, oh, Frank.
Frank.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, that is something to keep an eye on as we go on. Does Bijan get some reps now because Arthur Smith, does he at the end of the year try to appease the higher powers and the fans, or does he drag his feet in and Bijan sees less touches? And it is Algiers all the way to the bank for the next couple games. It's going to be interesting to see, and they're not even out of it.
You know what needs to happen, right?
What's that?
Nick Foles. Bring Nick Foles to Atlanta.
I'm pretty sure Nick Foles is retired.
Well, he can unretire. We've seen it before. Bring Nick Foles to Atlanta so he can have that miracle run again, and that way he's the backup that has 2 Super Bowls.
Okay. I'm going to counter that.
No, that was ridiculous.
I'm going to counter that.
Okay.
Colt McCoy. Colt McCoy, bring him back.
Dang it.
Texas quarterback, Texas running back.
You're totally going to win the text line with that.
Come on, bring him back.
Nick Foles went to Westlake.
Yeah, come on, bring out Colt McCoy.
Yeah.
Get a real quarterback in there. Win that division, win the last 3 games, win the division. Good to go. Sadly, I don't think Colt McCoy would be the worst answer there either.
I really don't.
If you had another coach. I don't want to do that to poor Colt.
I think Colt's very happy doing what he's doing, his analyst work.
I think he is too. I think, he's like, I don't want to get hit that many more times.
He's like, wait a minute. This is a nice year. I actually woke up, no pain.
All right, Vince Young.
We're bringing that trophy back to Atlanta, baby.
Tommy DeVito. Let's talk about this before we take a last break. Tommy DeVito, we talked about the story yesterday that he was there's a pizza place, a pizzeria in New Jersey that was supposed to have is it Colangelo's?
Ooh, I'll look it up. Go ahead, keep going.
But he was basically he was supposed to do this appearance. There was a signing. They were showing, hey man, our Jersey Italian boy is doing well, and we hired him to do it. Then the report came out that he has doubled his fee from $10,000 to $20,000. So they had to cancel the appearance. They could not afford him anymore. They put that out. The story got picked up. All of a sudden, it became news that was on ESPN's front page. Not what you want if you're an agent or a player to be ESPN front page. You have a big ego as a backup quarterback on a losing team in New York.
Snubbed a pizzeria in New York.
Yeah, and the whole fun story of Tommy DeVito and everyone across the way is like, yeah, screw you. Go to the pizzeria. So Tommy DeVito ends up doing it for free at the end of the day because he knew the press was going to be bad. And he knew he could get really good press by going and making up with the pizzeria and coming out and saying hey to the fans.
So you're telling me his Hall of Fame agent cost him $10,000?
His Hall of Fame agent cost him $10,000.
Oh,
he did get him in the front page of the paper though.
What's worth more?
It's worth more than $10,000. Well, I don't know. Papers are pretty cheap now. I don't know.
Any press is good press, baby.
I mean, front page of ESPN is probably more impressive than front page of the newspaper now.
Yeah.
But it's New York. I guess your front page of the New York paper. It's pretty good.
You think the paper's still a big deal?
I know they have those headlines. I can't remember what they're called, but the ones that you always look forward to, the ones where when someone screws up, they make fun of them and they make a pun.
Oh no.
Those ones, I don't know what they're called. I'm a Texas guy. I don't know about New York stuff very much.
You don't know New York culture?
I'm not New York culture. Surprisingly, I'm not. But we did. Our man Chief Engineer called it yesterday. He was like, I told you he's going to show up now because once that press, and I agree, once you made it to the front page of like CBS Sports and ESPN and everywhere else, you're like, oh, hey.
It's like, dude, just go hang out at the pizzeria for a couple hours, man.
Go shake some hands and kiss some babies, man.
Yeah, go make good.
You have to remind people, do not shake babies and kiss hands.
There you go.
That's backwards. That's a bad thing.
But Tommy, man, right now this city loves you, and you just took a bad loss. Let's go to the pizzeria.
Let's go to the pizzeria. You still gotta play Philadelphia, who's gonna be madder and madder because they can't figure out what they're doing. Not on either of our power rankings.
Now, if you beat Philadelphia, snub every pizzeria in town.
A couple other quick stories to hit. UT women's basketball does play tonight. They're taking on UT Rio Grande Valley. I don't have too much to say about this game.
They're going to
Texas
dominate
is number 5 in the country. They're 11-0. UT Rio Grande Valley is 0-9.
Oh.
So this may not be, but this is part of Texas trying to go down and get people excited about this and get people to come out to these games. So they traveled down to Rio Grande Valley. Normally this is the one where everybody comes to us. They went down there to try and get the show down there and get some UT fans down in the valley.
Get some juice in the arena.
And yeah, and those fans even though it's UT Rio Grande Valley, they'll be like, oh, we're rooting for Texas now because those kids came down and they signed autographs and they hung out. So a cool thing that Texas does, it's a smart thing they do to expand the brand to the south of Texas.
Right.
But they'll be playing tonight against UT Rio Grande Valley. And one more quick note. Did you know FSU is still mad?
Are they?
They are now contemplating how they can get out of the ACC.
I wouldn't call that mad. I'd call that they've moved into acceptance.
But they seem to me, FSU is now the one because we saw Mike Norvell come out the other day and gave we're still not over it and it's still emotional. I'm like, yeah, of course it's going to suck.
I'm still working through the disappointment of being snubbed.
But the funny part is the stories that keep coming out seem like, when you're at a party and someone gets like made fun of and then 2 hours later they're like, it was just like, I know I wore this shirt the other day, but I did laundry in between. So, and you're like, we get it, dude. We have all moved on. Bowl games have started. We have moved on. Yeah, we're looking forward to you losing to Georgia. All of us are looking forward to it now.
Y'all promise it wasn't that bad? No?
No, look, I get it. I was eating queso. I spilled some queso, and then I licked it up off my shirt. It's not a big deal.
You can't even really see it anymore.
I get it. I failed 5th grade twice. I know.
You all graduated a year earlier than me, but we're the same age. I get it.
Yeah, it just seems the person that cannot get over anything. That is for, and I'm curious because I feel like this is going to be and I get Texas had the revenge tour last year. I feel Florida State is going to come out and take it out next season.
Number 4 or 5 recruiting class that
they did,
saw.
And I think they're going to. There is whoever is non-conference, like nobody's on their schedule.
The tune-up games,
and those ACC games against teams that aren't any good in the ACC. Boy, you're gonna. Like, that's one of those ones that they're going to be doing dances up 100-2. And you'll be like, how are they still? And they're just like, oh, no, we're onside kicking. We're calling timeouts when you kneel the ball to just get out of the game.
2-point conversions only.
I feel like they're going to go after some people next year.
Yeah, sorry,
they're
Dabo.
not happy about it. But they're going after Dabo.
Yeah.
Everyone's going after Dabo.
Everybody is, yeah.
The ACC was cool when you were doing it. Now we suck.
When they were doing it the right way.
The right way, of course. The Dabo Sweeney right way, the Nebraska volleyball coach's right way.
That's Dabo's solution. I think we should hand out tidy whities to all teams.
Tidy whities? Look, if you have never slept in bed with your mother, you don't know how to do it. That's a Dabo. I'm not making that story up about Dabo. It's a real thing.
Well,
he was poor and did not know couches exist. Was apparently what it was.
Dude, I think I would have taken the floor.
Yeah, all of us would have. All of us would be like, yeah, okay, there's a couch down the street. I'm going to go put that in the room. We can sleep in the same room, and that's still kind of weird, but I get it. We don't have to share the bed.
Yeah, you don't have to do that one.
Was it a Posturepedic or something?
You have separators.
Yeah. Did they put like the pillow divider in between them?
Good old Dabo.
All right, we got to take a break. We're going to come back and wrap things up here on the Sports Complex, the Horn 1019, AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Wrapping things up here on the Sports Complex on a Wednesday afternoon. Appreciate everybody playing along with us.
I love that bumper so much. That's so good. It gets me every time.
Every time. Does FSU blame Alabama or Texas more for getting snubbed? Ask the texter. I think they blame the College Football Committee. I think they should be ahead of both of them.
Right.
They think they're okay with the two other division or conference champion undefeateds being ahead of them.
Yep.
But they probably think they're better than Washington too.
Yeah, but I don't think they directly blame Alabama or Texas. They didn't make the decision.
Yeah. They don't like it that we're in.
Right.
But they don't. Yeah, I think they blame more the committee.
They're saying they should replace you.
Yes.
But
yeah, I don't. And if you're asking who do they think should get knocked out, I would assume they want both of them knocked out. They think there should be a 3-team. You have to be undefeated.
And Florida State gets the bye at the 3.
But I honestly don't think they really care that much about who's in. I'm sure they have differing opinions. I don't know if there's a consistent FSU opinion. I think FSU fans that are in the Texas area would say FSU in Texas. I think FSU that like Alabama would say FSU in Alabama.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's some in Georgia that would say FSU in Georgia.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Oh, you think Georgia's a little pissed?
I think that's why we want to see that matchup. That's why everybody wants to see that matchup. The New York Post is what I was thinking about. The New York Post.
I don't want to see that matchup. I want to see the post-game press conference.
Yes, the post-game press conference. And whoever said get Cam on the Falcons, he's from Atlanta, give him the chance to back up the smack he's been talking about QBs.
No, we're trying to help the Falcons.
No, we do not. We do not let people who say dumb things get what they want.
Yes, we do. We do it all the time. All the time.
All right, we'll sign him. We'll put him on there. No, I get it. He wants to go back and play. We do not need him around Bijan.
No.
Bijan be a nice boy.
No.
Bijan's a nice boy. Don't put him around Cam.
Bijan's going to be coming out next offseason. I think these quarterbacks are mediocre. I just got to be straight up. I think they're game managers.
Game managers. Game managers are going to win an MVP. We're gonna take off. We'll be back tomorrow. Break down more. If we get any more signing news, maybe another transfer.
Hey.
Who knows what's coming tomorrow? We'll get into all that. Start getting ready for Thursday Night Football and the weekend and more bowl games. All that coming up tomorrow on the Sports Complex. But until then, be kind, be safe, keep your underwear clean. We'll see you right back here tomorrow, 4 p.m. on the Sports Complex.